The rain hammered against the pavement like bullets, each drop a reminder that sometimes running isn't fast enough. Sarah's heart threatened to explode from her chest as she spotted the sleek black Mercedes idling at the red light. Behind her, Jake's voice cut through the storm, that voice that once whispered love but now only screamed possession. Her hands were shaking so violently she could barely grab the door handle. "Please," she gasped, throwing herself into the passenger seat. Rain-soaked and trembling. "Can I hide in your car? Please, just until he passes. Please." The man behind the wheel didn't flinch. His hands, adorned with a single platinum ring, remained steady on the steering wheel. Dark eyes assessed her in the rearview mirror, not with the predatory gaze she'd grown accustomed to from Jake, but with something else, something calculating yet oddly protective. "Get down," he said simply, his voice carrying an authority that made her obey without question. She ducked below the dashboard, her wet hair dripping onto the leather seats, her entire body coiled like a spring. Through the rain-streaked window, she heard Jake's furious shouting growing closer. "Sarah, I know you're here! You can't hide from me. We're not done!" The man in the car rolled down his window slightly. Sarah held her breath, terror flooding her veins. Was he going to give her up? Oh God, she'd jumped into a stranger's car. How desperate had she become? "You lost, friend?" The driver's voice was casual, almost bored. "Did you see a woman? Blonde, about this tall?" Jake's voice was right there, right outside the window. "Lots of people running in this rain. Saw someone head toward the subway 2 blocks back." Sarah pressed her hand over her mouth to stifle a sob. The stranger was lying for her. A complete stranger was lying to protect her. "Thanks," Jake muttered, and she heard his footsteps splashing away into the storm. The light changed. The car glided forward, smooth and silent. After several blocks, the man spoke again. "You can sit up now." Sarah emerged slowly, mascara-stained tears mixing with rainwater on her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm sorry, he wouldn't let me go and I didn't know what else to do." The man glanced at her, and she noticed the scar that traced along his jawline, the expensive cut of his suit, the way his presence seemed to fill the entire vehicle with an unspoken power. "Where can I take you?" "Somewhere safe." Sarah's voice broke. "I don't have anywhere. I left everything. My apartment, my phone, everything's in his name. I thought I could make it to my sister's place, but she's 3 hours away, and I only have $27. The man was quiet for a long moment, navigating through the rain-soaked streets with practiced ease. When he finally spoke, his tone had softened almost imperceptibly. "There's a hotel downtown, the Meridian. I know the owner. You'll have a room for tonight, no questions asked." "I can't afford. It's handled." Sarah stared at him. This stranger in an expensive car who drove like he owned the streets. "Why are you helping me?" "You don't even know me." His jaw tightened, and for a moment, she saw something flicker across his face. Old pain, carefully buried. "Let's just say, I know what it's like when someone you trust becomes someone you fear." She wanted to ask more, but something in his expression told her the door to that conversation was closed. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you, really, I don't know how to repay you." "Don't repay me. Just get somewhere safe and stay there." He pulled up to a stunning hotel with doorman and crystal, chandeliers visible through the lobby windows. "Front desk is expecting you. Ask for Marcus. Tomorrow morning. There'll be an envelope at the desk, bus ticket to wherever you need to go, and enough cash to get started." Sarah's eyes widened. "I can't accept." "Yes, you can." He looked at her directly now, and she saw something in those dark eyes that made her breath catch. Not danger, but understanding. Raw, painful understanding. Sometimes accepting help is the bravest thing you can do. She nodded, tears streaming freely now. As she reached for the door handle, she paused. "What's your name?" He smiled slightly, and it transformed his face from intimidating to almost gentle. "Does it matter?" "It does to me." "Marcus," he said, and she realized he'd given her his own name for the hotel. "Be safe, Sarah." She stumbled out into the rain, but before closing the door, she leaned back in. "Marcus, whoever you are, whatever you do, you have a good heart. Thank you for seeing me as a person worth saving." The door closed and the Mercedes disappeared into the night. What Sarah didn't know was that the man she'd encountered wasn't just any driver. Vincent Moretti controlled half the city's underground operations, a fact that would have terrified her if she'd known. His reputation was built on ruthlessness, on making problems disappear, on being the person other dangerous people feared. But what Sarah also didn't know was that 15 years earlier, Vincent's sister had run from an abusive boyfriend. She'd called Vincent sobbing, begging for help. He was in a meeting, an important one that couldn't be interrupted. He'd told her he'd call her back in an hour. She never made it that hour. The boyfriend had found her first. Vincent had spent 15 years building an empire on the ashes of his guilt, becoming powerful enough that no one he loved would ever be helpless again. But the empire didn't fill the void. The power didn't resurrect his sister. That night, sitting in his penthouse overlooking the city, Vincent made a phone call. "Tony, I need you to check on something. Woman named Sarah checked into the Meridian tonight. Blonde, mid-20s, running from an ex-boyfriend. Named Jake. Boss, you want us to handle him?" Vincent's hand tightened on his glass. "I want you to make sure she stays safe. And I want information on this Jake. Everything. Where he works, where he lives, who he knows. And then we make sure he understands that Sarah is off limits. Forever. We don't touch him, but we make sure he knows. He's being watched. We make sure he knows that if he ever comes near her again, there will be consequences he can't imagine. Consider it done, boss." 3 days later, Jake sat in his apartment, staring at the photographs that had been slipped under his door. Pictures of him at work, at the gym, at his favorite bar, and a simple note. "She's gone. She's safe. You will never look for her. You will never contact her. You will move on with your life and forget she existed." This is not a request. Jake, who'd made a career of intimidating Sarah, felt true fear for the first time in his life. He moved to another state within a week. Sarah never knew about the protection that followed her. She never knew that the bus ticket led her not just to her sister, but to a new beginning carefully, orchestrated by a man she'd met for 10 minutes in the rain. She never knew that the lucky break, job interview, or the apartment with surprisingly affordable rent weren't luck at all. But 3 months later, as she sat in her new apartment, safe and rebuilding her life, she thought about the stranger in the Mercedes. She thought about how one moment of kindness from someone who owed her nothing had changed everything. And in his penthouse, Vincent looked at the updates his men provided. Sarah was thriving. Jake was neutralized. And for the first time in 15 years, the ghost of his sister's memory felt just a little lighter. Sometimes monsters protect angels. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the city is the one who understands that true power isn't about inspiring fear. It's about choosing mercy when you could choose violence. It's about seeing someone at their most vulnerable and deciding to be their shield instead of their threat. Sarah never learned the full truth about her rescuer. Maybe she didn't need to. Maybe all that mattered was that in her darkest moment, when she needed humanity most, she found it in the last place anyone would expect. And Vincent? He'd never forget her gratitude, her tears, or the way she'd called him a good man. In a life built on darkness, those words were a light he hadn't known he needed.